Hello and welcome. In this session, we are going to learn what is RDS, or which is also known as Amazon Relational Database Services. So we have all the details over here, and we will go through with what is RDS and an overview. So Amazon has released Amazon Relational Database Services as a web-based solution for the relational databases. They are 7 in number with different engines. So one of the reason to be accepted by the organization for AWS RDS is it is cost efficient, and you do not have to worry about the capacity, and most of the operational database activities, they are automated in AWS RDS. So one of the question, why shall I run my database in RDS when we have two more option? One is running the database, let's say Postgre, either in on-premises, which is not cost effective, or running the database like PostgreSQL in EC2 instance. So when you run your database in RDS, most of the database activities are automated, starting from the provisioning till the different phases of the RDS activity, like backup and recovery, setting up the high availability, the disaster recovery. Those things, they are just a click away. You can just click some of the options, and the required environment will be set up for you. So this is just one more point wherein we will discuss about why should we not be on EC2 or on premises. What are the different things which needs to be considered when you are on premises or when you run your database on EC2. Starting from the data center which you own, where you are going to have your servers and the entire infrastructure related to your organization for the IT services. You need the hardware for the server, you need the power, you need the network and the cooling. If you are doing it in on premises, you are going to pay for everything. The total cost of ownership is going to be very high. But if you do the same thing, that let's say you wanted to run the database on EC2 instance, you don't have to pay for the hardware, you don't have to pay for the power which runs those servers, the network and the cooling. That's you are not going to bother about that. Everything will be managed by AWS, and you have to pay as you use. The server maintenance, in case of on-premises, it is customer managed. Any issue with the server, you have to manage it. But in case of EC2, uh, if your database is running on EC2, it will be managed by the AWS. Operating system installation, it will be done by you, whether you do it on premises or EC2. If you talk about the patching of the operating system, installation of the database software patching, everything will be done by the customer, whether you do it on premises or in EC2. Scheduling the database backup, or making a strategy how to back up the database. Whatever you have been doing in on premises, the same way you will keep on doing when you run your database in EC2 instance. Setting up the high availability for the relational database like PostgreSQL, you have to manage yourself, and whether it is on EC2 instance or on premises. So it is just a virtual machine which is not running in your environment. It is being given to you by AWS. The scaling of your database, when you run it in on premises or when you run it in EC2, everything you have to manage. Setting up the disaster recovery for your database, you have to do it yourself, whether you do it in on-premises or EC2. So other than the two factors, one is related to the server maintenance and the hardware. In EC2, you don't have to bother about, but other than that, there is almost 90% of the similarity when you run it on premises or DB2 in terms of the task, not related to the total cost of ownership when you run it on premises and the database on EC2 instance. We will see the comparison when you run your database in RDS as a managed instance or when you run the database in EC2 instance. The hardware part or the server maintenance will be taken care by AWS, whether you run it on EC2 or the RDS. When you run the database on EC2, you have to perform the operating system installation. You have to do the operating system patching. That means you are the owner of the operating system. In case of RDS, you don't have the access to the operating system, and that is entirely taken care by AWS. When you run your database in EC2 instance, whether you install the database software or the patching, it will be taken care by the customer. But installation of the database software and the patching and everything that will be taken care by AWS. Setting up the database backup in EC2 instance will be taken care by customer, but when it runs in RDS, it will be taken care by AWS. High availability and the scaling, that part will be taken care by the customer when you run the database in EC2 instance. And when you do the same in Amazon RDS, it will be taken care by AWS. What are the distinguished features when you talk about the RDS? So most of the time consuming and the difficult part will be taken care by the AWS. The backups are automated. You can do the snapshot backup, and when you do the restoration from such backup, they are highly reliable as compared to those backups which you create when you run your database on EC2 instance or on premises. When you set up the high availability in case of EC2 instance or on premises, you have to manage it very well, and it's really time consuming to make the high availability setup. But when you do this thing in case of RDS, it is going to be very simple, and failover to such high availability solution is reliable, and it is very easy. You can use the read replica to scale up your read actions in case of RDS. You can use the IAM for identity and access management. This is one of the most secure features which is available in RDS. You can put your database in virtual private cloud, so it is safer. It is as good as like you're running your databases in your own environment. So there are a few terminologies which are used in AWS for RDS. One of them is we say it DB instance or managed instance. It is like an isolated database which you run in AWS, or wherein in one instance you can have one or more database. If you are talking about Postgre, you will have one managed instance that will be running as an isolated database instance, and that can have many user databases. What are the different database engines supported in RDS? You have seven databases. One of them is Postgre, which is either available as the relational database in database services, or it is also available as Aurora as the relational database service. There are six more other different engines like Oracle, MySQL, you have MariaDB, and there are MS SQL databases also there. So, and Oracle is as well there. So there are total several types of relational databases which are available in RDS. You might heard this. You might hear this term very oftenly in any cloud, or in our case, it is VPC. So it is like the predefined range of IP address. You can create your own subnet. You can create your own routing. You can have the ACL access control list. So your environment will be highly secure and safe. You might hear about the AWS regions and the availability zones. So the data center facilities which are being offered by AWS, they are known as the AWS region. So it is available in almost all the continents. You talk about the America region, you talk about Europe, Asia. It's available almost everywhere. If you talk about the availability zone, so one region can have multiple availability zones, and one availability zone is quite away from another availability zone. So we say it is multi-AZ. One region may have many availability zone. If you talk about the security, for the security, one of the recommended way is you create your own VPC and you should launch your databases inside the virtual private cloud. And how do we monitor the relational databases when you do not have the access to the operating system? Because normally what we do, we install the monitoring software on top of the operating system where database is running. Generally, in general, if you are using some other way, it fetches the information from the databases which are running on a particular host. But in case of RDS, you have CloudWatch, which can monitor the state, performance, and health of the database, and you can be notified depending upon what kind of matrices and threshold you select. How can we work with the Amazon RDS? So direct access you do not have to the operating system. So what you have to do, you have to use some third-party tool or some of the tools which are being offered by AWS so that you can connect with the RDS. Say, for example, if I have a managed instance of PostgreSQL, which is running in RDS, so I can use pgadmin to connect with the Postgre, which is running as RDS, or I can use PSQL, which is a command line tool which I can install in some other system, and from some remote system I can access my Postgre RDS instance. That's the way. There's all general details about the RDS in AWS. There's all the basics. I hope this is going to help, and thank you.